what would happen to our economy if more and more people started to follow your baby steps and not spend like Congress and get rid of debt? How would that affect our overall economy with people not borrowing money or using credit cards?
Well, we probably will never know, darn it. But but it's an interesting hypothetical question to think about. The only way I know to think it through is to think through what happens to an individual when they follow our baby steps. Okay? So let's take a couple that did a debt-free scream a couple of days ago. They've been working the plan for 6 years. They paid off their home. They're 37 years old, and they have $500,000 in their 401k. They're 100% debt-free, and they're millionaires. They're 37 years old. They followed the baby steps exactly. They're what we call a baby steps millionaire, and it took them about 8 years to work the whole thing. Okay? Now, what happens to that couple? They have zero debt. They're millionaires. I think if I remember, they made like $200,000 or $150,000 a year, something like that. They weren't making $500,000, but they weren't making $40,000. Okay, so they're somewhere kind of like that early six-figure thing. So let's pretend. Let's just make them up. There's $150,000 a year. They have no payments in the world, and they're millionaires, and they got $500,000 already in their retirement accounts. What happens to their spending? Well, it doesn't stop. As a matter of fact, it probably increases. It's just responsible spending because now they actually have money. Sharon and I today are an extreme example of that. I mean, we're way down that road, and we spend a lot more than we ever have in our lives.
Mm-hmm. But isn't there way more people in the world that are in debt that would have to stop spending, stop going to restaurants?
Yeah. But I mean, to start with, obviously, we were talking about a hypothetical, but even if we could go with a hypothetical, there's no possible way we could get them all to do it at the same time. But if all of America stopped going to restaurants at one time, restaurants would go out of business. Your point is your point. I mean, we experienced that during COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all the servers got laid off and the restaurants closed. America stopped going to restaurants just for a different reason. It wasn't because I dictated it. It was because somebody else did. But that's the same thing. And that's not good for restaurants, okay? But that's not going to happen in the Ramsey world that you and I are talking about. It would happen gradually, and there'd be some couples doing it now, and some of them are already out of debt, and they're back going to restaurants again. Sharon and I went to a restaurant last night, okay? So, I mean, you don't never go to a restaurant again. It's just for a period of time while you're paying off your consumer debt in baby step 2. And so if we could talk enough people into working this plan, people would become wealthy, and wealthy people spend more money than poor people.